Howdy traders. Morning video real quick. Getting ready for work. Um, Basically, yesterday's SPY ran into the close right into the market maker move for the week. So that may be a capping effect for the markets. We did have the SPY S&Ps. They paying out 1x dividend. So we are getting a discrepancy between the ES futures versus SPY because now SPY is gapping down below the uptrend line because of the XDiv. As you can see, we've had this uptrend in support line. We are gapping down below that largely due to the X dividend. So it's something to keep in mind. This trend line is being violated because of the X dividend situation here. The markets are really not really showing a lot of relative weakness here, but that is the reason why we are kind of breaking that trend line on the SPY this morning because of that situation. Okay. Now we are throwing a little bit more relative weakness on the Qs. Okay. So that is something to be concerned about whenever you're coming into this session and you know already. Let's see here. Let me go get the. Start with that. The Qs. Yeah. One second here. Here we go. And as you can see, we have we closed yesterday's session well above the market maker move for the week, and now we're showing a little bit more relative strength for the or relative weakness in the Qs versus the other indices setting up for the session today. So we do have uber bullish Qs coming in today, suggesting that some profit taking might come into play today because of the OPEX OPEX situation, quad witching and everything. It's all hitting the markets today. So we'll probably have the Qs showing relative weakness throughout the day, knowing that they are relatively overbought for the week. They're the most expended. They're the most extended for the week. So if the markets were to show a little bit of selling pressure, that would be the area you'd want to look to your attention to. So, or as far as early sessions goes, we have BABA marking all-time highs. Okay, we're putting some prints out here. It's still trading right here on those ticks for all-time highs, but BABA is actually it is the volume leader for the morning so far, and it is has put in a few penny ticks above their all-time high print. So that is something to keep in mind. We might be setting up for a BABA breakout in a not too distant future. So that's one that showing a lot of interest this morning, or more than double anybody else's action. So BABA is probably looking for a very good year in 2020. And then Netflix, we're showing a little bit of relative weakness. And like I said, the Qs have been way overextended versus the expectations into OPEX. So this here might be it might be difficult to continue pushing to the upside. And if you notice the VPOC for the week, we're still quite a ways away from the migration to the upside. So there's a lot of as far as on a weekly basis here, there's not a lot of volume support on the weekly to support these high prices if the markets decide to show some relative weakness. And if you go down on your 5-minute time frames, right now we are trading right back into yesterday's value. So it's not something to get overly concerned about right now, but it is something that to be concerned about, knowing that the major volume for the week was at much lower prices. So just something to keep in mind if the markets do start showing some relative weakness. Taiwan Semiconductor, that's another one that has broken out of a, let me show you this trend line. And see this accelerated trend line? It broke out of that last week, and we are, as we speak, back testing that trend line breakout. So a lot of the froth in Taiwan Semiconductor seems to be coming out of the overbought situation. We are breaking below that trend line, very accelerated trend line as we speak this morning. So that is one of the semiconductors showing a little bit more, possibly more relative weakness um, than some of the others. So that's just something to keep in mind here. Yeah, you can see it a little bit better here. Taiwan, you had the overbought situation, Taiwan Semiconductor, and we're coming back in below that overbought situation, but that's still a very high read for Taiwan Semiconductor on that breakout. So a lot of the froth seems to be coming out of this security. So I just wanted to point that out. Trading well below our daily value areas. And let's see here, let's go on our weekly. Yeah, see, our developing point of control is way up here, and we are coming crashing down here. And what got me is just how far extended this is relative to prior. Uh, uh, Last week, our value was primarily put in down here at the 54.50 area, and then it just got a rapid, explosive short squeeze, driving it higher later last week, and then today or this week we've been bleeding off that value. So there isn't a lot of structural support to the downside for Taiwan Semiconductor if the markets do show some relative weakness. Okay. Facebook, explosive move, amazing. I was looking at some of my pivot points. I think it's going to have trouble struggling any higher today. In my opinion, it's in some tight ranges with the pivot points. So this is one just to keep on our watch here. Showing a little bit of a few cents off from yesterday's highs on Facebook. So, just keep this one in mind. And let's see here on our value areas. Yeah, we had our value areas are lower if the Qs are showing a little bit of weakness here. It's likely that we're going to be rolling back a little bit lower. And we are into resistance on Facebook, trendline resistance, in my opinion. Cisco, another trendline resistance. We're looking above. Easily can come back in today. Let me max this out, see where that trend line comes from. And I go out on the weekly. No, I'd say channel. Okay. So, and it looks like we have crossed above the weekly 20 SMA on our Cisco, and so that's going to be some resistance there, and so actually seeing some volume this morning. So and there's a mini trend line right here, it looks like. If I could draw that in there real quick for you guys. And it looks like we came right up and testing that trend line. So this actually looks a little bit more bearish to me than bullish, but we'll see how the markets like it. That looks like a descending channel, which we may or may not be breaking out of this descending channel. If you put a line down through here, coming back into range for Cisco. So that's just one to keep in mind and on your radar. As far as value goes, we're in yesterday's value, but how are we relative to the week? Look how extended we are on the week. I mean, value for this week was supposed to be 44.30. I'm thinking all the short squeeze has already been bled in. So it's going to have to take some real buying to support prices up at this point, in my opinion, on Cisco. So just keep that in mind. Right now, we are trying to sustain the price, but there is a little bit of volume on that one. And surprisingly, Nike, which had earnings, they don't have a lot of volume this morning. On light volume, it's trying to pop a little bit. So, And then our weekly value, we're right back to our weekly value for the week, which that's a healthy sign that we closed. So that is a healthy launch point if they want to uh, push this thing higher. So just keep that in mind for Nike. I'm still more bullish than bearish on Nike. So we'll see what happens. I looked at the numbers; they seem to be surpass all their expectations. I didn't actually hear the guidance, so I'm not really for sure on how that's all going to work out. And it does seem to me, though, that Nike is wanting to go higher if the markets can hold out here, in my opinion. And then Apple, see, we're showing that little weakness in the Qs or the overbought situation in the NASDAQ. Well, like I mentioned Wednesday, we saw buyers as absolutely getting shut down here on Apple. And, let me show you this. I'll zoom again. Okay. We came down here and we touched this, we made this trend line, and all these price points here, I was checking a volume at price, and it wasn't too bad. But what happened here on Wednesday, volume at price, that was the highest volume at price read we had so far in this entire move up, and that to me was a sign that there's some sellers sitting up here ready to lock in some profits. And we saw that boom liquidation, and then that night I got my charts out, and that told me that price is higher from here. There's a big seller waiting to sell into further higher prices. So keep that in mind. We are way extended on the NQs. We're coming into that trend line once again on Apple. Not saying that it's going to roll over or anything like that, but it does look like there's a ceiling being set here for Apple in the short term, in my opinion. Okay, let's see here. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? 1 second. Now, one of the stocks that I want to keep on your watch list, that is Amazon. Now, we got a trend line here that we're crossing out of today, and it's something to keep concern on your watch here. And we're going to be crossing over it on our developing VPOC for the week. So that is somewhat supportive from downside risk in Amazon for a potential breakout scenario going into today. So just keep that in mind that Amazon is showing some quite interesting setup here to the upside. So just keep that in mind. See if you go all the way up here. I didn't have my thing drawn properly. It comes all the way down. So we are literally potentially crossing over that today, and we do have daily volume from yesterday. It was supporting the price into that trend line. So that's important to know. That's actually weekly volume. That's developing weekly volume, supporting price into that trend line. This is a continuation scenario with one more day going into the week. My big concern is the NASDAQ showing some relative weakness. So, but Amazon kind of does its own thing. So we might see it today. We might see it next week. But I do think Amazon is trying to break out of this trading zone that it's in. So keep that one in mind. And see, we even had the, yesterday's volume wasn't really pushing to the upside. I would have really liked for a bullish scenario, the developing value to be yesterday's developing value to be right at the top of the range. That would have really sold me on the idea Amazon to much higher prices. But it's still not doing too bad. It looks like right now in the pre-market session, Amazon is pushing out above the trend line. So just keep that one on your radar that we do seem to be in the early market session here trying to push out the trend line, possibly finally for a breakout scenario. Okay, I'm working today, so good luck, and uh, hopefully you guys can make some money. I think personally, I wouldn't be pushing the tech stocks today. I think they're going to take a breather today, in my opinion. So I guess I'll be eating crow tonight if I'm wrong, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Tech's going to take a breather today. So okay, thanks a lot.